Insider, Sean and Tristan Ducross.
What's up, everybody? We are live right here on YouTube.tv. We are the Sports Warriors. We are Sean and Tristan Ducross.
That is very true. Once again, you know what? We're back with another show. And right now, it's a Brave Combat Federation is getting ready to make its debut.
Yep, but unfortunately, there's one company that stands alone. After a merge of two companies, they form a new organization.
Yeah, and you wouldn't have thought that the merger would have happened because it was one of those things that just seemingly came out of the blue. And that is Legacy, FC, and RFA have merged and formed one brand. Kind of like what happened with WCW and WWE, or WCW and ECW, or ECW and WWE. Doesn't it all starting to sound very similar? You know, it's been all over Facebook. It's been trying to figure out what's going on with the world of combat. I read, you know what? Combat sports, MMA, isn't what it used to be. It is dying, this and that and the other. Is it really? I don't think it is. I think, if anything, it's gaining more traction to legitimacy. Something that wrestling was afraid to dabble into years and years and years ago. MMA isn't afraid to dabble into that. They realized that they had to find a niche in the sports entertainment world to draw more fans, to draw more profitability. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the groundwork laid by wrestling for mixed martial arts. Because quite frankly, nobody knew about mixed martial arts. We wouldn't be talking about years ago when WEC was bought out by Zuffa. This wouldn't all been talked about because of the fact that, you know what? Wrestling wasn't at its peak. But now we are. Because the evolution of sports entertainment is happening whether you like it or not. I know people out there are like, this is mixed martial arts. This is completely different than wrestling. Yeah, because there's legitimacy behind it. You know, here's an interesting thing. I know we're supposed to talk about Legacy, FC, and RFA merger, but it's got me going a whole different mindset right now. And that is, remember when WWE did the Tough Enough?
Yes.
And you had that woman named Daria that was on it? And she straight up told them, yeah, she's an MMA fighter. She'll bring legitimacy to wrestling. What did Brock Lesnar do?
Same thing.
Brock Lesnar went to MMA because he was a wrestler. He brought legitimacy to wrestling. It all intersects. Whether you like it or not, it's something that it's going to happen. You have to be willing to embrace it. One thing you and I have talked about for years, is you have to have the ability to sell yourself.
Yep.
If you don't have the ability to sell yourself, you'll never make the millions and millions of dollars. Whether you like it or not, Conor McGregor is that guy. He is the Floyd Mayweather of MMA.
Where we're at right now in sports, or in combat sports in general, is by the sheer fact alone is that we are in an era where it's all about entertainment value. It's about the bottom dollar. It's about how exciting you can be inside the ring. So the issue that we come across now is that you're talking about legitimacy between companies. And the way that I see it is that there is none of that. And I kind of see that in what Legacy and RFA kind of intertwined a little bit is because Mick Maynard, the CEO of Legacy, is gone. He jumped ship to
I don't say he jumped ship because
Legacy was underneath the banner of UFC.
Kind of.
Right, I get it, kind of. So Mick Maynard goes to the UFC. By default, somebody had to consume Legacy.
Yeah.
they weren't going to be bought out by the UFC or Bellator or anybody else. Now we've seen in the recent time is that Legacy and RFA has had a brand extension together, that they have worked together before. We knew eventually that this was possible.
It was going to happen in one way or another.
What we didn't know, though, was about how quickly this was going to come together and how quickly everything kind of transpired, where it was like, boom, boom. You got Legacy RFA forming LFA. Then you switch over, you got Mick Maynard going over to the UFC. So everything kind of fell down all at one time. And then everybody's like, oh, well, what happens to the champions? Well, they're going to unification titles.
Absolutely. And the unification titles is going to be something that is going to draw fight fans again because of the fact that, well, who's better? Me or your guy?
Yep.
We can't forget how good RFA and how good Legacy has been. One thing, though, that is eerie similar, and I'm waiting for people to come out there and watch. We've seen it all too often, not to toot my own horn or anything like that, but folks, how many times have we said something and 2 minutes later, somebody's posting the same thing we just said, or twisted it a little bit, but yet here's a little bit of a tidbit. Okay? WEC was its own entity.
Yep.
Out in California. WEC was formed in 2001 by a gentleman named Sean Shelby. In 2006, they were bought out by Zuffa. What happened to WEC?
Folded up, they consumed their fighters.
And in that process, they developed more clientele of fighters. Sean Shelby he's the matchmaker. Granted, you still had Joe Silva, but you had another matchmaker.
They were able to split the matchmaking.
Exactly. Now you notice, circa 2016, the merger of Legacy FC and RFA, Mick Maynard goes from Legacy to UFC.
And ultimately will feel Sean Shelby's role.
Because Sean Shelby will take on Joe Silva. Same thing that happened in WEC. So you're looking at WEC was the breeding ground for a lot of UFC fighters. A lot of UFC fighters, that's where they went, that's where they signed, all this yada yada yada. Who's to say that Legacy or LFA, Legacy Fighting Alliance, is only around for the next 2-3 years, and then Zuffa buys them up to formally create a new version of WEC. They're talking about Legacy Fighting Alliance as the AAA of mixed martial arts. This is where you're going to go.
And it's funny because they talked about when this story first broke. I just love how people love to spin stuff, right? Because we were out in front of this. And so was our boys at Fightbook. We were all out in front of this and we were all talking about it. And there were quotes that were misleading. Mick Maynard is saying that how great he feels about this. And the next thing you know, less than 24 hours later, he's UFC. We talked about where everything goes right now in terms of the LFA and UFC. They made it perfectly clear that LFA will stand on its own and that it won't be the farm system to the UFC.
But it'll be the farm system to
MMA.
Everything. And if that's the case and Ed Soares and company keep that mindset, then that's great for everybody involved. But if you go outside of the spectrum and start leaning more towards UFC, I think then you're going to end up seeing the era of WEC all over again. I don't think that's what's good for business. God, good for business. The similarities boggles my mind. So
because we are in a world of entertainment, regardless of what you say about wrestling or Ultimate Fighting or combat sports, it's in general, is that at some point it will intertwine, regardless of how people feel. It's coming.
Absolutely. You got to be able to go out there, sell yourself, grind, and hustle. I mean, we've seen that every day with our buddy Josh Griggs and being with TFE and seeing the grind and the hustle you have to have in this community, if you will. Everybody's going to position themselves to better themselves, to put them in success, in being able to be successful at what they want to do. You can't be afraid. So for what Mick Maynard and Ed Soares did, I applaud them. I don't knock them, because finally elite prospects are going to have a place to go to compete. If it's not tough enough out in Las Vegas, it's LFA. You couldn't have asked for a better scenario. You couldn't have asked for a better situation. It just, to me, draws an eerie similarity to that of WEC. Whether anybody wants to like it or not, it has that similarity to it. I just hope it's not. To say that it's the unofficial breeding ground to the UFC, it very well. We saw Albert Morales go from RFA Legacy. Now I'm just putting them all together, but you've seen him go from there and transition. You've seen Dana White at the events, so it makes sense. It really does. Do I want to see them make sure that their fighters go to Bellator or World Series of Fighting? Absolutely. Do I think that ultimately is going to happen? Probably not. Not with Mick Maynard leading the helm over there in the UFC. So it's going to be an interesting 2017 when it comes around, because you're going to be looking at the fact that LFA, Legacy Fighting Alliance, is going to say that they want to host 30 events.
Right.
My goodness, that's a lot. But then again, when they respectively did, what was it? I think it was 14 and 13 events. It's quite doable. You could go out there and make money. It'll be good for the supporting of local MMA, because then you're hoping that doing 30 events, you are able to take more of the fighters or more of the events to other areas. To maybe like the Southern California.
But the question is, dude, is that with Elevate, with the merger, how much more money do they really have in their back pocket to allow them to now do 30 plus shows, to allow them to travel a little bit more? Well, did they open up the pocketbook? Did they open up the Legacy pocketbook and say, hey, we're going to get all your money, we're going to put all our money together, and we're just going to put it all out there, and we're going to do what we need to do to survive? We've been around a lot of promotions, and it ain't the easiest thing to go out and, well, we're going to go to a new venue.
Oh, absolutely.
So that's my only worry, is that with this LFA, how much money was actually put together into this buyout and this merger.
Smart businessmen, only time will tell.
Absolutely. But in the meantime, time will tell, because it's a brave new world and a beginning in Bahrain. And it goes down September 23rd, and only right here on YouTube.tv will you hear the only true talk of Brave Combat Federation with your boys, the Sports Warriors, right here. Be right back after this message.
Let's get it on! Sprawl and brawl, ground and pound. Get ready for an MMA showdown. Now, the ultimate Octagon Insider, Sean and Tristan Ducross.
All right, everybody, we are back. We are your boys for the evening. I'm Tristan Ducross. Along my side, as always, my partner in crime, the one and only
Sean Ducross. So, Tristan, a couple weeks ago, we had a little bit of technical issues, and we couldn't get the people of Brave Combat Federation on the show in a timely manner. But it wasn't going to stop us doing what we do best, and that is bringing the fight fans evolution or change. And that is Brave Combat Federation is getting ready to send off this Friday night in Bahrain. Really?
Is it just me, or are you kind of really excited to actually see what you'll be able to see on BraveFights.com? You'll be able to watch this card go down in Bahrain. And when I'm looking at this card, Manelo Hernandez is the one that put this card together. And he had one agenda. Get the best fighters across the nation, across the world. Put them together underneath one umbrella to give them an opportunity. And that opportunity comes at the hands of Brave. And when you got Soto and all them that are at the helm of this, you couldn't ask for much more. Carlos Kramer's over there right now too. He is going to be one of the voices for the promotion. I mean, from the main event to the prelims is incredible. You got the main event that is Abdul Karim Sal Sawadi.
Sorry if it's
that is a long name. And I ain't even going to play that card. That is a long name. So I'm just going to call him Abdul Karim. Ramy Aziz is his opponent. Both featherweight guys.
But yet they're fighting at lightweight, which is an interesting battle. Is that you're taking two guys who are featherweights, who are quick, agile, bulking them up a little bit more to fight in lightweight. Now, this being the main event is so unique. Ramy Aziz does not like to stand whatsoever. He's herky-jerky. He jerks when he comes in. He's not consistent in his ability to wanting to stand there and throw and trade. He will shoot in, awkward, try to get the fight to the mat, will catch himself in awkward positions. In his most recent fight, prior, he was submitted. And I was just like, oh no. This guy's 8-3, and he got submitted because he shot in awkward, got caught. And then you look at him, and his last fight, at Desert Force 20, he fought through bad positions. The kid was in precarious situations where at one point he was locked in an arm triangle. And I was like, okay, this guy's main eventing for Brave Combat Federation? Like, there has to be something that Manelo saw in this kid to put him in the fight. And then, sure enough, he gets out of that, avoids getting ground and pounded, turns around and submits the kid in a rear naked choke. I was like, what? That's the mindset that you have to have when your backup is against the wall. See how much heart you have. And when you're talking about brave is one thing you have to be in combat sports. You have to be brave. And this kid, Ramy Aziz, is that. He embraces the culture of being brave. Because he did not submit. He did not back down. He went for the takedowns. He got it. He resurrected himself. Got the submission finish. Now, Abdul Karim is an interesting guy. He's 5-1. So you got an 8-3 versus a 5-1. Abdul Karim has finished all of his fights, dude. Except for his last one being a unanimous decision. Really? This kid has knocked out everybody. So he has either won by KO or TKO. And in this, you got a stand-up versus a ground guy. How good is Abdul Karim going to be at defending the takedowns from Ramy Aziz? Because when you look at it, is that Ramy is very able to put himself in bad spots. Can Abdul Karim catch him in one of those takedown opportunities, lock in a guillotine or a rear naked choke, get out of it? Can he do that? See, that is the question in the main event.
See, also you have to understand too, is that when you look at Aziz, who's a grappler and a stand-up boxer, I like the ground game like you're explaining. Because if you're able to get it to the ground with a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy and as good as him, it's pretty much a wrap. But you got to remember, Aziz is ranked 3rd
Yeah, in the Middle East, and it's being taken place in Bahrain, in the Middle East. So you've got the number 3 guy in the Middle East headlining a promotion in the Middle East. It's almost as if they thought about it and said, you know what? This is the guy. This is the top guy. We're going to showcase him.
Dude, and I saw some videotapes of the Desert... What is it? Desert
Force.
Desert Force promotion.
It sounds like you're listening to a Power Ranger show.
Right. But I saw a couple of those fights on that. And because that being really the only legitimate place to fight out of...
It seems that way.
I mean, dude, some of their fights were electric. And one of the guys is even on this card, too. Which is also part of the co-main event. Thiago Vera versus Godshims. Probably not going to get that one right. But Thiago his last 3 fights have all been finishes. All of them. Either via choke or strikes.
And this one was scheduled to be Thiago Vera versus Muhammad Frankadine. Frankadine?
Yes. But due to an injury, look, he gets a new opponent on short notice.
So it'll be interesting to see how Thiago goes ahead and competes at this high of a level against a guy that has won his last 4 fights via KO or TKO.
Yeah, because Gads. I'm just going to call him Gads.
Just call him Gads.
Gads. Last 4 is 2-2.
Yeah, and he's from Russia, but he's got an interesting background because he fought in Russia, and we all know the shadiness of the Russian backing, I guess you could say.
Absolutely.
So it's going to be interesting to see what he's going to bring to this outside of that spectrum.
But when I look at these 2 fighters, granted it's a last minute, and you had to get somebody. I get it. But when I look at Gads versus Thiago hands down is the most superior fighter out of the 2.
Yeah.
Out of the 2, period.
Well, at MFC 12, Thiago Vera, that is, fought Angel Gonzalez in what was one of the quickest takedowns, transitions I've seen to a rear naked choke.
Oh, right.
He just floated around, wrapped him up, took him down, and that was it. The guy was done and submitted. That almost to me, from what I've seen, should have been the main event. So if this is any tall tale of what to expect from the team of Brave and what Manolo has put on the card, it's going to be interesting. So if you're looking for something to do Friday night, go over to bravefights.com and make sure you catch this card. Because then you go down the list and you've got a U.S. homeboy from 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu and Richie Martinez, a.k.a. the Boogeyman. The Boogeyman's going to the Middle East with that beard. Not sure if that's exactly the best approach. I mean, but he's going there. He may come back with a shaved beard. We don't know. But he's taking on a guy, Ahmed Amir, who's 5-1 versus 3-1. It's going to be basically a grappling match. Who's going to get the best takedowns? Who's going to get them in the best positions? Because both of them are ground guys. Both of them like to finish on the mat.
But I love Boogeyman's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Hands down.
It'll be interesting.
But, Sean, we're talking all about the main card and how good these fights are and how the matchups fit against each other. But there's one matchup that gives me all warm and fuzzy in the middle.
Fuzzy.
And that is France Malambo versus Stephen Lawman, a.k.a. the Black Mamba, taking on Stephen Lawman. And France, the Black Mamba, guess who his teammate is? His teammate is Conor McGregor. He is part of his team. He's out of Ireland. The Black Mamba...
That's where I've heard of Lawman.
Right, no. It's the Black Mamba is the one out of Conor McGregor's camp. France.
Ah, France. That's interesting. So see, the level of talent that Brave has put together for this fight card is crazy. I mean, you've got that fight that you're looking forward to. I put down on my list that I'm looking for Kevin Koldowski versus Elbar. It's just going to take some time to figure out their names. My goodness.
Right? That's what I'm saying. That's why I try to write down the pronunciations of all these fighters. And dude,
I'll be the first one to tell you, I'm not the most grammar sophisticated person on the planet. That's what makes you and I unique.
Right?
Is that we're not the most politically correct. We don't pretend to be. That's not who we are.
That's why we have real talks, real opinions. We're just real people. Keep it 100.
We'll be the first ones to admit that. So we apologize to the butchering of the names occasionally. But the Middle East names are not that easy to pronounce when you've never heard of them, and you can't really find good people that pronounce it. How much time do you think
Carlos Kramer right now is taking to pronounce these fighters? Right? Is he just sitting at home with a book and going like, all right, check, that's wrong. Check, that's wrong. Hey, dude, how do you say this name? I'm just trying to get into the mindset of Carlos Kramer to find out how is he.
No, because you're just going to sit. You're just going to sit down with all of them and go, okay, pronounce your name for me.
And then you're going to go like hooked on phonics. Abdul Kareem Al Sawadi.
But that's the unique thing about what Carlos Kramer does.
Absolutely.
And being a ring announcer is his ability to get through the fights, get through the names, and do a good job at it. And that's what you're going to be looking forward to for this fight, is the excitement that he's going to bring to the live showing on BraveFights.com, is his enthusiasm for the events. That's one thing you and I have always loved since we met Carlos Kramer, is his attention to detail.
I just like Brave thought outside the box. Let's go get Soto. Let's go get Manilo. Let's go get Carlos Kramer. Let's change up the world.
Let's not do something that's the same.
Right? Everybody does the same. Let's do the cookie cutter type. No. Enough with the cookie cutter stuff, and Brave did it. I'm excited. I can't wait to watch the first fight of Brave, September 23rd. It's going down on BraveFights.com. Believe it. That's going to be something to watch out for. Trust me. Everybody needs to pay attention. It ain't all about UFC. It ain't all about Bellator. It's not all about WSOF. There's other opportunities out there, folks. Other places that need to be recognized. Yep. Brave is going to be one of them. It is going down.
It's a brave new world, as you said it. But
it's the beginning of a brave new world.
But what wasn't brave was the fact that we had UFC Fight Night 94 and Bellator 161.
Yep.
Typically, Bellator puts on great fight cards and leaves you going, yes, that's why I love free TV. This one left you going, what the...
Right?
The only good thing about that fight card was Joe Warren redeeming himself and doing what Joe Warren does best. Hey, my back's up against the wall. You want to throw a young buck in my way?
You want to throw a haymaker, a left cross?
Guess what? I'm going to go put him on his back.
Right?
Like, really?
Sirwin Kakai took a knee to the nose and it was done.
The funny thing, though, about that fight was listening to you say, Kakai! And having my wife laugh hysterically every time you're going to say, Kakai!
Well, because it sounded like you're going to Kaka.
Yeah. But you have that fight, and Joe Warren won via third round submission, saves his job again, continues to say, I will do whatever Bellator wants me to do.
Right.
Good company, man. Good company, man. Good guy. Couldn't ask for a better guy.
There's not a better guy to actually know and get to talk to on a personal level than Joe Warren.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's crazy as a mug when you put a mic in front of him.
But the thing that left me going, what's next? Anastasia Yankova. Okay? You say she's attractive. Our buddies from Fightbook says she's attractive. Everybody says she's attractive. Says that...
I think McFarland's more attractive.
That says that she is the second coming of Paige Van Zandt.
No! I wouldn't go that far.
But
I think she's attractive, yes.
But there's nothing
attractive. Paige Van Zandt far? No!
But there's nothing attractive to her when she was fighting. Nothing attractive. She looked awkward, not sure what she was doing in there. And then every time I saw her take a strike from Veta Ortega, I was wondering, how is she supposed to take a punch from McFarland? I even posted on my Facebook about how is that fight even supposed to make any sense after that? Because the skill level is here and the skill level is here.
You would think from a Muay Thai practitioner,
kickboxer,
that you would think that at some point you'd be able to put the two and two together. But she didn't really use her leg kicks. She didn't really establish any kind of stand-up game against Ortega. And the question mark that I had was that I do commend her, and I do give her props for the fact that at the end of the fight, she did say, Sean, she openly admitted to saying that I don't necessarily think I won that fight.
And she didn't. Well, she did, but I agree. She didn't really win that fight. She was lucky that she didn't get knocked down. I had it actually as a draw because I gave the first round to Veta Ortega as a 10-8 round because Yankova was knocked down not once but twice. When you go down to a knee on the second one, I'm sorry, there's nothing you can do to redeem yourself in that sense because I didn't think she outstruck her the rest of that first round. The next 2 rounds, oh yeah, Veta completely gassed out, and then you saw the emergence of what level of talent Yankova does have and put on one heck of a fight. It was good. It was humbling to see that Yankova said that, you know what, I didn't win. I don't think I won that fight. Bravo for her. Thank you for admitting that to the fans. I personally don't think I'd want to see that fight again. I don't think anybody wants to see that fight again.
But I think we personally have to see that fight again because in order to get a Ilima McFarland fight versus Yankova, I think that only makes sense to put Yankova against Veta Ortega again because there's no way, Sean, that you can immediately say McFarland versus Yankova makes sense. You can't.
No.
After that performance, you can't.
No. And
everybody can talk about how that fight makes sense. It does not.
McFarland can go out on Facebook and her videos and say how there's so much sexual frustration between the two and whatnot. Reality is, let's just hold off on that a little bit more. Let's get Yankova a little bit more fights, a little bit more competitive.
More seasoning.
This to me is starting to feel like Fernando Gonzalez versus Michael Venom Page all over again.
Right.
Yankova is the Michael Venom Page. Fernando Gonzalez is the Ema McFarland aspect. Is that McFarland wants to fight, Bellator doesn't want to give the fight. She'll keep calling out the fight until she gets the fight. I kind of want to see the fight happen now, just to squash it, so we don't end up in the era of Cyborg Ronda Rousey version 2.0 all over again.
But then we're just gonna get a McFarland squash match.
Then if it is what it is. But that's kind of what we saw at UFC Fight Night 94. You saw my notes. All I said was blah. Snooze fest.
Because we're looking at UFC 94. Reality set in that once again Uriah Hall is exactly who we thought he was. Go on, clown him. I would smack the mic like the late great Dennis Green, but my mic is precious. So no, my mic stays right here. But Uriah Hall once again, there's one thing to be a guy that has a karate base, right?
Yeah.
There's one thing to be good at one thing. But there's also another issue with Uriah Hall is that while he's good at one thing, he gets lazy at others. Uriah Hall's defense is that lazy part. He is good when he is within himself. When he's outside of his box, when he is trying to pressure, when he is trying to establish something that he should not be doing, he becomes reckless. Then he doesn't use his defense. Then he leaves himself exposed. And what happens? Lights out, Uriah Hall.
And Derek Brunson, man, dude, does that guy pack a punch or what? Because he just laid him out. But I thought that was a horrible stoppage. There was no point that, when you look at it, there shouldn't have been a stoppage. He was still able to go, okay, I'm still here. I'm still figuring out where I need to be. He could have easily defended himself.
Oh, absolutely.
Why the fight was stopped boggled my mind. The one thing that the fight was actually stopped on time was Michael Johnson lighting up Dustin Poirier. Last week we took Dustin Poirier and put him up on a pedestal. And Michael Johnson said, hey, boys, thank you for doing that. I'll knock him right off for you.
Knock him right off that pedestal, and that's what he did.
Knocked him right out of the chance of getting into the top 5.
But then we have to tell Michael Johnson, hey, dude, pump the brakes, homie. Because you ain't even ready for a money fight. So let's not call out these money fights. Because you ain't even there yet. Let's get you back on a roll. Let's get you going a little bit more. Then we can talk about those money fights. But right now, we ain't talking about that.
Because we can't forget how bad he got spanked and stalked and slapped by Nate Diaz. That's not something that's just going to go away.
When you get punked out
on national TV by a Diaz, you're not in the area of being able to talk to the next level. Beat the next guy, show up to your next fight, destroy him like you did Dustin Poirier, then maybe we'll start talking again about getting into a number 1 contender shot. But unfortunately, you're not at that level. Pump your brakes. Let's go back to the drawing board. Let's wait to see what's going to happen next. But when you look at the list of 155, I mean, you've got Conor McGregor, who now says that he wants a shot at Eddie Alvarez's 155 title.
What are we doing?
And then you've got Khabib saying, I've got that title shot, not you. Like...
But then Dana White wants to come out and say that none of that is true.
Except for the Khabib one. Says that they're in talks with that. But how does Khabib get a title shot, potential, over El Kukui? That confuses me.
Again, because we look at logistics here, and logistics says Khabib is the man. Why? Because he's an exciting fighter. He can rattle the feathers. He's a showman.
So is El Kukui.
El Kukui's just starting to get that.
So El Kukui.
Everybody needs
just
to buy
because
into
you
him.
wear a white wig, a curly white wig every time you do a press conference, does not mean you're entertaining. I can call a circus clown and have him dress up in a yellow wig, and he'll be more entertaining than Khabib.
Ronald McDonald called. He wants his look back.
So the list is long. It's going to be an interesting fight week because coming up, you still have the fact that UFC Fight Night 95.
Yep.
You still have the fact that we had one of the most not talked about boxing fights over the weekend.
Canelo Alvarez. Dude, more with the Sports Warriors coming up right after this break. I'm Tristan Ducross. Along my side, as always, is my partner in crime, the one and only Sean Ducross. Dude, we have UFC Fight Night 95 preview. Cyborg Santos. Apparently, softballs are being thrown. Stay tuned for more combat sports talk with your boys. Real talks, real opinions.
Let's get it on! Sprawl and brawl, ground and pound. Get ready for an MMA showdown. Now, the ultimate Octagon Insider, Sean and Tristan Ducross.
All right, everybody, we are back. We are your boys. We are the Ducross Brothers, the Sports Warriors. The one and only true, real talk, real opinions, combat sports talk show.
Don't sugarcoat nothing.
Right? Don't sugarcoat anything. We keep it 100. I'm Tristan Ducross. Along my side, as always, my partner in crime,
Sean Ducross. So, Tristan, UFC Fight Night 95 is coming up this weekend.
Softballs! Or more like beach balls. Depending on what you want to look at. Because you got Christian Cyborg Santos taking on Leah Landsberg.
I thought for a second that was the perfect segue right into the fact that on this card you have Roy Nelson and Antonio Bigfoot Silva.
Yeah.
Beach balls.
Because their heads are like melons.
Let's go with that one. So Roy Nelson versus Bigfoot Silva. We'll get to Cyborg in a minute because that's a whole other issue. But Roy Nelson versus Antonio Silva.
Right.
Why are we even talking about these two Still, considering
1-4.
2-6. 40 years old and 30-something years old. 36, I think.
At this point, Sean, homie, we're looking at one or the other. Their career ends in that octagon that night.
And people are saying that loser goes to Bellator. Why? The only
How
way
does Bellator feel about that? Like,
you get the scraps,
right? Bellator, no heavyweight division, but wait for it. You have two broken down fighters that are in the heavyweight division that could both be exciting and exhausting at the same time. But wait, the loser goes to Bellator. If I'm Bellator, I am not chomping at the bit for that one.
The only loser I see that if any of this is actually true is Antonio Bigfoot Silva would be the one going to Bellator because of the Strikeforce comparisons. But other than that, it's like these two guys just need to hang them up because it's a lose-lose situation if you're Roy Nelson. If you go out and you defeat Antonio Silva, okay, what does this do to you? There's nothing that you could justify because you've beaten everybody or fought everybody in the top 10.
Absolutely.
So there is nothing left for you to do. That is what you will say is a glorified gatekeeper.
Ain't that the truth?
I'm a heavyweight guy who's in the middle of the pack, but I can't go up, I can't go down. I'm right here. You're going to go right through me.
I'm just a step below Frank Mir,
who's suspended. Like, come on. And I'm waiting for him to go sign over with Bellator like Chael Sonnen. Who might I add, I want to talk about after this too, because that was quite interesting.
Right?
So you've got that fight. That's my main question I got from that is like, why? Where does this go for either one of them? Then you've got the one that is the most confusing fight of the evening. Renan Barão versus Philip Nover, whatever. 33-4 versus 11-6. Renan Barão is 0-2, lost his last two fights. One, he's either been knocked out or he lost via decision to Jeremy Stephens. He was beat badly in the Jeremy Stephens fight, might I add. He didn't even come close to winning that fight. Now you begin to wonder, at the age of 29, is his body starting to wear down? Is he starting to hit that 4-0 wall? Will we see the end of Renan Barão? Because what happens if Renan Barão loses to Philippe? You know what I mean?
Yep.
How bad is that going to look for him? Now, if you tell me, Tristan, this is loser goes to Bellator, Renan Barão, please, go leave. Go to Bellator.
Dude, and I'm telling you, dude, I saw this fight, Renan Barão versus Felipe Nover, and I was like, dude, if the beach ball couldn't get bigger, or the softball couldn't get bigger, this was Lob City. This is like Chris Paul looking at Blake Griffin, half court throwing an alley-oop.
To DeAndre Jordan, too?
Dude, this is about as bad as the Cleveland Browns dog pound throwing batteries at Tim Couch. This is as bad as Cleveland winning their first championship with LeBron James over the Warriors. This is as bad as Mike the Miz in the WWE on SmackDown Live getting treated like a coward. That's how bad this fight is between Renan Barão and Philip Nover. That's ridiculous. Like, this guy was once considered the next George St. Pierre. Dude ran right out of the UFC. You don't understand that? He literally ran right out of the octagon. And then brought back, and he's 1-1 in his last two. And you get Renan Barão, I swear. Dude. If Renan does not end this fight in like 12 seconds, hang your head low, dude.
I want somebody to explain to me how a guy who's 1-4 in the UFC gets Renan Barão.
Right? Oh, wait.
That's as bad as watching some amateur fights where you see an 0-0 guy making a debut against somebody who is like 6-0.
Dude,
and
that's
you're like, yo, dude, what's up with that?
That's like the fat guy rolling out of bed and think he's an amateur fighter, and then steps inside the cage and loses in 5 seconds. Like, dude, just because you like MMA does not mean you make you a fighter. Like, just because you think that you're like, damn, I really like beating up people, doesn't mean you can beat up people. I'm sorry, but I'm looking at Philip Nover, and Eddie Brown needs to get over his yips. He needs to get over his problem, whatever it is that is feeding into his anxiety, feeding into whatever is going on in his mental state. I guess that's where we need to we really need to focus on that with Enan Barao, because if he loses, Sean, does not dismantle Felipe Nover, there is no saving Enan Barao. There is no way that Enan Barao can move on from this. There isn't.
Fightbook joined us in the chat room, and he's like, dude, it's about the rankings, bro. Yeah. Let's go with that. That would be comical if you would have told me that Felipe was ranked in the UFC rankings. Then I'll be like, yeah, that's more whack too.
Dude, he ain't even ranked.
He's not even ranked. He's not even in the same area code.
Dude, he is.
This is like saying that, you know what? He's fighting in California and the dude's fighting in China.
Sean,
that's how close in the area code of the world they are.
Dude, this is so bad that when back in Middle East, Brave Combat Federation, they have more ranked fighters than Felipe Nover, just say.
You know, this is as bad that when you look at the fight card and you go, well, Renan Barao versus Felipe Nover. It's like you can't even think about where or how this fight even materialized.
And this is funny because Renan Barao just 2 years ago was the man, pound for pound was the man.
Yeah.
2 years ago. And we're talking about him losing his last 2 fights, and we're talking about him like he's nothing. Like, this guy was not a world champion. That's what we're talking about. Like, we're talking about his opponent because it's a lob. It's an easy dunk. You better not pull a Game 7 going up for wide open dunk and you hit it on the back rim and the ball gets shot half court.
That's where I was going with my analogy a few seconds ago that I completely missed. Because you were going with comparisons about Lob City this, Lob City that. Well, let's go to baseball then. Remember when John Kruk took on Randy Johnson in the All-Star game? And John Kruk went, hold up, take it off my batting helmet, gonna go backwards, gonna go switch hitter. That's about as bad as this is.
I thought about this would be as bad as Jose Canseco playing in the outfield and the ball hit off his top of his head. Home run.
Or about as bad as Larry Walker tossing the baseball into the stands when it was only 2 outs.
Everybody does that. I don't care about that. But I mean,
or Randy Johnson slicing a bird in half.
Yes.
Because Renan Barao could be Randy Johnson slicing Felipe in half.
Yes. I can see that. But man, dude, then we're talking about Christian Cyborg Santos,
who's apparently got to lose 20 pounds
by Friday. What?
Get the hospital on speed dial.
Oh my God, right?
Get the hospital on speed dial. Make sure you've got an ambulance parked out back because this could get bad T-minus 2 seconds. What I don't get is how you were able to allow her to fight at a catch weight of 145, and now this fight you're telling her get down to 140.
There's no negotiations, 140.
So what will happen Friday? Will we see a drained, strawn out Christiana Cyborg, or will we not see that fight? Because you already have Lanzenberg agreeing to the fight at 140 when she's a natural 135er.
And she says she will come in at 135 because that's her natural weight. So regardless, she says that she can. She even offered Christian Cyborg at 145, and UFC flat out said, dude, pump the brakes. You're getting at 140, plain and simple. You're not getting around this. It's 140, a hard 140. The weight cut for women, we have always said, is not the easiest thing. Christian Cyborg, 20 pounds by Friday. That is a scary feat in itself. But Lena, 6 wins, 4 of them via KO. This girl, if this fight does happen, we are looking at, Sean, a possibility that we could see an upset if Cyborg is not 100%. Because she is almost, granted she's not as big as Cyborg Santos, but man, when you look at Landsberg, you see it right there, Sean, that Landsberg has the Muay Thai background. She believes that if she is able to weather the storm of Santos, because she believes that all she does is do a fury of stuff right at the beginning. But beyond that, nobody has ever extended a fight. She believes that if she could extend a fight past the first round into the second and third round, she has her by the 5th round. Again, if you employ a game plan like that,
if Cyborg comes in not strung out, then I don't see it. If she comes in strung out and looks like a skeleton, like it's being mentioned from our buddies from Fight Book, then I could see Landsberg coming in and beating up on Cyborg.
Right.
But that's the only way. She's just too physically imposing, no matter who's in that ring or octagon against her.
And yet here we are still talking about Santos, and she doesn't have a division. And she's even said now repeatedly that fighting at 140 and 145 is absolutely atrocious for her body, and it's starting to wear on her. And she says 155 is much healthier and much better for her. So again, here we are. We got Dana White playing the bully card, saying, we need you at 140.
And Cyborg, being the fighter that she is, like, okay, I'll try. Thank goodness it wasn't said, hey, you got to make 135. You might as well just get a black body bag and call it a day.
Like, when is it?
That's how bad this is getting for her.
Like, dude, I get everybody wants to see Ronda Rousey versus Cyborg Santos.
Do it at a catch weight.
Right, you're going to have to do it at a catch weight because physically, it is not possible to get her down to 125.
Every woman's fight should be done at a catch weight. My opinion, I will stand by it. That's where these women needs to fight at.
That's where I would like to see, kind of like for the women, is I would like to see like in amateur, right? In the bantamweight division, you have a window for your weight. Kind of like how I would like this. So, okay, say you have between 115 and 135 bantamweight and so on, like that, right?
Yeah.
Get a bracket for these women so they can fight healthier and they don't have to worry about killing themselves and depleting their bodies just to make weight, just to get a fight.
I agree. But I guess just to get a
women's
fight,
bodies are so much different than men's.
Yeah, and we can talk about that till hell freezes over because you and I are very outspoken for the women in MMA. But one thing that everybody is going to tend to start speaking about one way or another sooner or later is Canelo Alvarez.
Oh, right.
Canelo Alvarez knocked out Liam Smith via TKO
and broke his thumb while he was at it.
But this is an interesting story because not many people watched it. Let's just be real about that. I can't wait to find out what the reports are on how many people watched that fight. But you and I were talking about it this afternoon. And it was an interesting thing because you saw a photo about people making pot shots at Canelo Alvarez, dressing him as a kind of a girl.
With a tutu.
You said...
Call it what it is, Sean. He channeled his inner Oscar De La Hoya and put on a tutu.
You said you're on the verge of going that route. And then I pulled you back and showed you the different light. And the different light being that I was going to go your route too until I started to get in the mindset of, okay, let's back off here. Let's see two sides of the spectrum, okay? When I did that, I started to see everything. People are quick to blame. Oh, this is Canelo's fault.
Right.
Canelo won't fight the big guy. Canelo is a baby. He dropped his title. That's what all the naysayers are saying. He's scared of Gennady Golovkin. You go back circa 2000. You had Oscar De La Hoya always picking and wanting a shot at Floyd Mayweather. It was Floyd Mayweather who continuously ducked De La Hoya when De La Hoya was in his prime.
And De La Hoya was the one that always took fights, period. But
He
see,
was like
where...
Julio Cesar Chavez.
Right.
He didn't matter what fight it was, who it was, when it was. Bottom line was, Oscar De La Hoya fought the who's who of who was put in front of him. Didn't complain, didn't ask about, I want the star guy. If the fight came, the fight came. He didn't duck anybody. I kind of see that being embraced in Canelo. Because let's look at the spectrum, okay? Let's look outside of the box. This is what you love to do. That's what makes us different. Let's look outside of the box. Everybody's like, he dropped the title. Okay? When he dropped the title, everybody said he's scared of Gennady Golovkin. But I say it was a smart business move. You said, how's it a smart business move? Because you want the fight against Gennady Golovkin. That's your dream bout. That's the it fight. So you drop the title, you give it to Gennady Golovkin. At some point, you're hoping that Gennady Golovkin is going to get a little set of cojones and take you up on your bout because he awarded you that title. So why would you want that taste in your mouth knowing that you were hand-given that title?
See, and that's where I'm indifferent because I don't think this has... I don't think this has really anything to do with the fighters. I think this right now has more to do with Loeffler and De La Hoya. I think this has to do with more about De La Hoya's camp than it does Canelo Alvarez. This is so far out of the realm of what Canelo said a couple months back when he stood there in the center of the ring, the center of the squared circle, and said, "I fear no man."
And I believe that he fears no man.
If he fears no man, at this point in time, it is now for him alone, to stand up, tell De La Hoya, either A, dude, step aside, I'll take the fight, you just do what's best for business,
and get us a venue.
And I will do the rest. Because I'm thinking that De La Hoya is more scared about the matchup and about what's the possibility that can happen than actually what it matters to the fighter.
But then, Tristan, here's my rebuttal to that, okay? Is that if you're scared of the possibility between the two and what is inevitable or what may come from a Triple G fight, and you're saying, well, if I get knocked out here, it's going to ruin all my cred. But either way you look at it, you're risking losing anything because of the fact that Canelo hasn't been able to draw anywhere right now by himself. So you're asking for him to continue to lose his buys, continue to lose his viewerships. So if you are Oscar De La Hoya, at what point do you pump the brakes and say, we must get this fight done? We must get another big fight before his value starts diminishing.
Because we're going to end up in the same place that we were with Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao. We are going to do... People do not understand that Triple G, Golovkin, is 34 years old.
Yeah.
He's getting longer in the tooth. So by the time we talk about the Golovkin versus Canelo, if this doesn't happen in the next year or so, we're talking about the same issues that everybody talked about between Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao. That's the issues we are going to run into, Sean.
Version 2.0 all over again.
Right, because we want to see key matchups. We want to see it all. But when you look at, let's look here, Sean, weights don't matter in boxing anymore. Let's just call it what it is. Let's be real for a minute. Nothing works the best in the business more than weight negotiations. Let's talk about catch weights. Let's talk about what ifs. That's where we go with this, is that it's just a negotiation ploy. That's all it is. Let's fight at a catchweight. Amir Khan jumped two divisions to fight Alvarez. Kell Brook, 1 division to fight Golovkin. Canelo only fights British. Yet he lays out everyone. Call him the British killer.
So then let's just get this Canelo fight finally done. Let's get this fight going. Let's see what's going to happen between these two before it's too late. Because right now, it's going to be an interesting next couple fights for Canelo if he does not fight Triple G in 2017. Because one thing I was telling you about watching his fight was, my goodness, he's starting to look like Miguel Cotto. Miguel Cotto's downfall was his inability to adjust and to adapt and get away from left hook city. All he kept doing for a couple years was left hook, left uppercut, left hook, left uppercut. It was like playing the video game Fight Night where all you had to do was button smash. Just throw the left hook. Just throw the left hook. Just throw the left hook. And you're going to knock the guy out. Canelo is doing the same thing.
But that's the thing. That's the thing
I
about
was
boxing.
Watching him load up and turn every time and uncork that left hook to the body and then follow up with a left uppercut.
And it was funny because you and I we were watching the Canelo fight, and we literally called out the combinations left and right because we were calling out the left hook, right uppercut, or the left hook when he led with the left hook, left uppercut. It was all the same. And the issue that I have with Canelo is that, yes, he's getting older. I get it. But it seems like when all fighters start getting older, they start going to the well one too many times. And my issues with Canelo is
You're thinking he's going to the well?
Yeah, because I think that while he's a good fighter and while he has established himself, I think that if you start watching the videotapes, and I think if you start physically dissecting Miguel, I'm going to call him Miguel Cotto because that's...
Because I already planted that seed in your head.
Right, because it's eerily similar. Is that once you start watching the videotape on Canelo Alvarez...
Because I bet you 10-1 you didn't realize it until I mentioned it.
Right, because when you start analyzing... And that's the thing that we do the most, is that we will watch so many videotapes and break and analyze every single thing to a T to explain to you why we see certain things the way we do. That's why when we cover MMA events, it's funny because judges sit right next to us and we talk pretty much all night about what we see, how we're calling a fight, why we're calling a fight the way that we are, why we're seeing it, and it amazes me that how much respect that we get from the judges, from refs when they're talking to us. Canelo Alvarez is going to have to adapt and change because the video's out there, and it doesn't lie. And if he continues to get money fights, he will lose.
Yeah, and as the fight...
Step outside of these Brits
and go fight somebody.
That is worthy. Then we will talk. Because if he fights at 160, he's going to get destroyed.
Why are we not even talking about David Lemieux versus Canelo?
Because ain't nobody wants to talk about David Lemieux since David Lemieux lost
to Gennady Golovkin, but still, you're talking about in the same general field.
If you put David Lemieux versus Canelo Alvarez, two guys that will absolutely throw down 100%, put on an exciting show, and ain't nobody talking about it.
Because David Lemieux is from Canada.
Right.
Nobody wants to pay any mind to David Lemieux and what he's able to do
across the border.
Because why are we not talking about that he should get a rematch against Gennady Golovkin?
Yeah, he's on an undercard.
It boggles my mind.
Gets a prime fight against Gennady Golovkin and then gets relegated to an undercard.
But you know what? We're the DeCross Brothers, the Sports Warriors.
Yes, sir.
We're about ready to call it up, wrap it up. One thing I do want to touch in the chat room is, yes, we are related. Yes, we are identical twins. That's what makes us unique about what we do and why sometimes our banter is a little bit aggressive and why it's a little bit different is because of the fact that we're brothers. We deal with each other consistently.
That's why we have Real Talk,
Real
Real Opinions. We are the Sports Warriors, right here on YouTube.tv. You can hit us up on Facebook, Sean and Tristan Ducross.
Like our fan page, the Ducross Brothers, on Facebook.
You can find us at Twitter, at the Ducross Bros. And heck, you can even check us out on our website at www.thehotspotshow.com. Until then, we are the Ducross Bros.
We'll see you guys next week.